All right, so this is going to be the second run through of finding a bear hunt to go on every single year. So as you recall in the last video, we dove through a bunch of different ways to how to find an over-the-counter spring bear hunt on Filtering 2.0, using all the tools, narrow it down to an exact unit. So now we have our unit picked out where we want to go bear hunting in the spring. So now I'll show you what you can do on goHUNT's 3D maps on the web to start diving in and figuring out exactly where to hunt. That's the biggest thing now, narrowing down an exact spot to hunt in our unit. So as you can see here, I have kind of dived into a certain place and a certain unit. Obviously I have zoomed in really close, so I'm not trying to blow up anyone's spot, not trying to wreck my spot, that sort of thing. So it's going to be just a good reference video of what types of terrain features I like to look for and what tools I like to use on goHUNT's 3D maps. So, the first we should start off what bears need, and that's isolation. And that's going to be green grass, cover, and water's going to come into as well for us mainly, and also water where potential green areas could be. So we're looking at like streams, potential snow lines, that sort of thing. So I have the roads turned on. If you didn't have the roads turned on, come down here. I'm in Idaho, going to roads and trails, and right now I have all the motorized roads turned on. And what I like to do too, you can adjust the transparency at the top. I prefer on roads just to crank the transparency all the way up so I can easily see what I'm looking at. I'm just going to use roads right here. There's actually no trails in this area, but you could also use trails as well. So that's another reason why I picked this spot, is it's really hard to get into. Besides for the main road that goes through here, there's not any hiking trails. Everything's going to be off the beaten path, beating a bunch of brush. So again, that's going to eliminate competition from other hunters to get into this bear spot. So that's what I'm kind of looking for. All right, so the next up I'm going to jump into is terrain. So right now I'm basically just getting a rough idea of what the elevation is in the area and to figure out different elevation bands. Because obviously right now we're kind of chasing snow. And the reason we're chasing snow is we're chasing where the green grass is going to be first. All that melting snow and different things are going to create green up in certain areas. Obviously you need sunlight, rainfall, that sort of thing. But I'm going to use elevation just as a baseline. So in this area, I'm starting to click on a bunch of different elevation layers. You can see down here, there's some elevations that are 7,000, 8,000. But the majority of the spots I have picked out right now are within 5,500 to 7,000 feet. And right now you can see the transparency is cranked way high. So I could turn that transparency down. And then when I'm moving around, I can see where the different elevation bands are because I have the 8,500 and then the 7,000 band turned on. Just gives you a rough idea of the terrain. If you were zoomed out at a higher level, you could kind of use that to determine other bear areas. Like you're not going to be, you could go way up into high alpine right now. But for the most part, I'm using stuff that I have used in years past about where bears are going to be. And so I know in this general area that between these two elevations, there's a good chance there's going to be bears, especially relative to where the elevation is all around this area. So I could keep that on, but right now I just know what I'm dealing with, so I'm going to turn those back off. And then you can see just what I've been doing to find this spot is I just basically zoom in on 3D. As you can see here, I have 3D turned on. And what I'm doing is just running down these drainages, spinning around in 3D, checking it all out. And what I wanted to be able to do is figure out, okay, from the road, how far do I have to go out and hike to get to a good glassing point? So you can see right here, when I'm rotating around this is going to be a good glassing point for south-facing slopes. I can also turn this thing around, and there's a lot of good north-facing country too, with more timber, that sort of thing. So I have a lot of variability here on where I can glass. So that's what I'm trying to look for. I'm honing in these spots, is just not having a plan A. I want to have plan B, plan C, plan D, etc. So you can see when I'm zooming in here, I'm also looking at this terrain that's up higher here. So I got a lot of timber patches, and what it looks like is there's some openings that potentially could be really green this time of year, because I can tell there's vegetation in there. So that's what I'm looking for. Trees, cover for the bears, but also areas where that green up's going to happen first. And a lot of times these little depressions in the topography are places that's going to collect water when snow melts, and sometimes those are going to be the areas that are going to green up first. So I'm just looking at all this terrain, diving into everything about it, trying to figure out, okay, again, where can I glass, where can I access, where can I hike from, where potentially could be a good camp spot. And throughout this whole process too, when you're doing it, you can just start dropping waypoints, labeling your waypoints, naming them correctly, and also adding different custom icons so you can reference them later. So along with some of these other layers, what I might do is, obviously, land ownership is going to be a big one. If I turn on government land, you can see here the whole entire thing I'm looking at is going to be public land. I can adjust that transparency again. But since I know this entire spot I'm at is public land, I'm just going to turn that off because I really don't want an extra layer of color transparency on there. I'm just trying to dive into these terrain features. So another really big one is wildfires, because what that's going to mean is, one, it's going to be areas that could be easily glassable, but also, I don't want something that's totally nuked and just the terrain's just gone. But a wildfire in whatever recent years is going to allow a lot of new green up, because it's going to be, sun's going to come down on things, green up things a lot faster when that snow melts. And so I'm going to be, maybe honing in on something that has a wildfire in a recent year. So on our wildfire layer, you'll see that we have wildfires from 2020 all the way down to 2010. And for simplicity's sake, and to not blow up spots, I'm going to turn them all on so you don't know exactly where this burn is in this area. Okay, so as you can see, I just turned on the wildfire layer. It's a very high transparency right now, so I'm going to crank that down a little bit. And again, I'm not going to turn these on individually to see what year this is, just so I don't spotlight the spot, but you could turn it on individually to figure out what year this fire was, so you know how recent it is. So you can see here the area I'm looking at did have a burn within the last 10 years. That's another just thing that I will like to take into consideration when trying to find a bare spot. And again, from here, like I just restated, I'm just also trying to find backup spots. So we could continue down this road, work down this big ridge system here, and again, we're looking at south-facing slopes, kind of at the higher elevation, and just trying to hone in on spots that I can sit there and glass and just see a lot of country. Because bear hunting to me has always been, the more glass time you have, the better chance you have to find a bear. So I want to be in areas that I can do a ton of glassing. Obviously you could run around, do some calling and that sort of thing, but to me it's just, I've never been here before, so I want to stack the cards in my favor by just honing in on areas that are going to hold bears. And that just to me is using 3D, because 3D is everything. I'm trying to find a bear spot and just marking these areas that are going to be green or potentially green, and just finding stuff that's going to look buried. Areas that have timber, have open spots for that vegetation green up, and just keep scanning through all this terrain and start marking down a bunch of details. Find maybe locate a closed logging road in here, start marking that stuff down, because those are going to be areas bears like to travel, and also areas that usually have a bunch of grass on it, been closed for a long time. So as you can see, we got a little kind of road system through here on the bottom, and that's going to be a great area for not only us to travel and cover different country, but also for bears to want to move through. So locating a prime bear spot, definitely going to take some luck if you've never been there before, but just again, keys are going to be finding a bunch of isolation from other people, getting away from main gravel roads, and then just finding areas that are going to be green. And so we're just going to keep diving through here, looking at all these drainages around here, maybe move the drainages a couple miles away, and start dropping a bunch of waypoints, playing around with these layers, and just honing in on that perfect bear spot. So it can be complicated, but also it could be super easy when you have all these tools in front of you with goHUNT's 3D web maps. It just makes it a lot easier to hone in, play around with the layers, drop all these waypoints, label everything, start measuring. Also shot distance is another big thing too. Like I can take a measurement tool here, go on this ridge, be like, well, I'm going to glass from here, but could I shoot from here? As you can see in this example, when I scroll around, a lot of the terrain from this little spot I just picked out, I could literally glass a bear up, and if one pops out, we could shoot from there. So that's also a big benefit too. Obviously it doesn't always work that way, but at least you have that option to know, like, hey, this is a good glassing spot, but it's also a good spot to kill, which is everything, because bears are roamers. You see bears, they're going to be moving around a lot. So play around with all the tools, and eventually you're going to start figuring out, hey, this is a good bear spot. I got all my data, got all my waypoints. Once I have everything here, I'll start adding them to a collection, and then I can easily start dropping everything into my 2021 bear hunt plan. So there's just a lot of different things you can do, but this makes it a lot easier. So if you guys have any questions at all, how to find a bear spot, how to use goHUNT's 3D maps on the web, be sure to drop comments below. I'll get back to you guys. There's a lot of great tools on here, how to find not only bear spots, but all species across the West. So it's a pretty sweet little thing, especially if you can do this in 3D. We live in a 3D world, and being able to scout, research in 3D on your computer is a huge leg up when you're trying to find a perfect hunting spot. So best of luck this spring, and catch you guys next time.